transgender situation.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Last call on the donuts. All right.
I'd like to request to go into closed session under Iowa Code 21.51A to discuss some civil rights, possible civil rights issues, as well as some FERPA issues with a current student within our district.
All right, well, we'll go into closed session. The floor is yours.
Okay. We currently have a high school male who is identifying as, in the last year, has identified as a transgender student and is this summer going to complete a change and come back in the fall as a female student. And under federal guidelines, and I didn't mean to hand too many things to you, but in this packet I put together, there's federal law in there that we need to follow. We need to make sure that we are providing a private environment for all of our students to be able to participate in within the school. What I'm asking of the school board is to look at this with fresh eyes and to come to the table in knowing what federal law says and what we need to do as a school district, and then also to look at it as advocates for all of our students, regardless of who they are, regardless of how they identify. So this student has been working with the school counselor in working through some issues that have been going on for several years and has been really struggling with what to do. I've been working and talking, I've had several meetings with the parents, and what we have going for us in this situation is the parents are on board. The parents are actually supporting the child this summer as the child goes through surgery, and we'll come back in the fall. So under federal guidelines, what the child asks us to do, the student asks us to do, is to refer to them with the gender that they have specified. So we will need to do some training with our staff. We'll need to do some understanding. We will need to have some compassion for this student as they come back, as well as to look at other students and their understandings of what we all need to be doing together. So what I am doing right now is working on a couple of things in our district that need addressing anyway, and one of those is updating some of our locker rooms and bathrooms. We currently have a boys' locker room that has private showers for the boys, and we have a girls' locker room that does not. So in doing so, I've come up with some estimates of some construction costs, and for the privacy of all students, I think we definitely need to update that girls' locker room. I've also come up with some, you'll see it on the second page, some estimated costs for fixing some of the locks on the girls' restroom for privacy for all people who are using it, and also we need to, by federal law, designate one restroom at least that is non-gender specific. And I know this is a lot to give to you all in one session, but this is what's before us, and I think as a school board we need to definitely address this and be ready for issues that could come along with this.
So, other than the informing, what did you say you want us to decide?
Well, what I want to do is make sure that I'm not asking you to decide anything today, okay? I'm not asking you to decide. What I've done is making we're in May right now, and I will be meeting with a school lawyer. There is currently not a school district policy on transgender and non-gender conforming students. So with that said, we need one in the future. We're not going to develop policy in a crisis, so I'd like to take time with the school lawyer. I'd like to bring one possible policy to school board meeting in June for one reading, and then bring it back with anything that we have added to it in July for a second reading.
Are there any other districts that have gone through this recently that we can look to for guidance?
Yes, there's actually, and there are also groups that help the school districts with this whole policy. There is a group called G-Safe that works very closely with schools on, and it's out of Madison, Wisconsin, and they are very willing to come and work with schools to come up with policies. I think this is a very fresh thing in the eyes of the school. I think this is something that is that we're going to have to take a look at.
refresh my memory on our policymaking committee, our process. Commonly, it's staff, it's parents, community members, and
Absolutely.
board members. So what do we have?
We currently, what I wanted to do first is meet with the lawyer and get the recommendation from the lawyer of who we should put on that committee. And then we will form a committee to make the policy, to start creating the policy, bring in a lot of ideas, a lot of brains into it, and really come up with a solid policy that's you're an advocate for everybody.
So is this, in my scenario, we have a policy, standing policy committee meets regularly. Is this, do we have that, and are we looking to do something special for this particular policy?
I think the committee that we do have, I think could handle really digging into this. I think they've done a fantastic job of coming up with our bullying policy and our harassment policy, and I think that we could definitely.
Well, my recommendation would be use the policy or the committee that you already have. Otherwise, it can create its own political world by specializing it. Certainly, federal, state law will dictate some, and the precedent certainly helps. But this is definitely going to be could be a community-driven issue, where in some communities it's more or less understood, I guess. And yes, slow is better in working through this particular issue.
Is this the first student that's public, like that's been forthcoming with
Yes,
information, parents, like is this the first time we've encountered this?
Yes, and in this, we are fortunate in this situation to have parent support. Because there's been other situations where the student has come to school saying, I want to be identified as a male, please call me this name, and in the school system, we say, yes, we will do that. But if we don't have that parent support, that's a tough situation.
What's our district's communication plan, knowing if we go through and make some of these changes, what's our plan to ensure people know why the change, what's our plan there?
Well, while we're developing policy, I think what I really want to do is take any kind of fear or misunderstanding out of it, because I think that's where we really see judgment coming from people. I want to definitely have our staff have some just very trained in kind of a knowledge-based training, that you have somebody come in and just say, this is what this is. This is where you're at. You're educators and you're advocates for kids. So I want to sort of take the stigma away by doing some really good, high-quality training with our staff, first of all. I have already had some parents come in on this situation and have had some concerns that if this child is in a locker room changing, because this child will be identifying as a female, if they're identifying, if they're in the locker room with their daughter changing, what's that going to look like? And that's why I'm trying to provide a lot of privacy. So that's a case by case. If there really are parents with a lot of worries about that, that's a case by case basis. For
We've been in communication with the Iowa High School Athletic Union about having any issues run in there where if she's coming in as a female and now doing female sport, like where are we with that? What's that communication?
She will play female sports.
Okay, and we haven't received any feedback from the athletic? Okay.
So the scenario you spoke about, the student in question wants to go into the female locker room, and a parent comes forward and says, I don't want my daughter in there, but I want my daughter to continue to use the female locker room. Who takes precedent in that situation? Which student?
Neither nor. By federal law, the transgender student would, but that's why I want to switch the whole look of that into privacy for everybody. So if the privacy piece was that the student you were just talking about wanted to come in and change and didn't want anybody, that student to see them, then we work with each on a case-by-case basis. Sorry.
I was going to say that the pragmatic and the difficult part is that the cost, and not every district can physically change to accommodate that. It's going to make this issue very difficult to solve unilaterally. Do we have estimates on cost?
We do actually right here. You wanna see them? No, just,
Part of it, I think from an informational standpoint, because I'm looking at this, that's not a large amount of money. One thing that can provide some context to this is like for EMC or something, some settlements that perhaps have been paid out where districts have been found before to settle around discrimination cases with transgender students.
Which will be more than what's on this sheet.
Right, right.
I think one of the things, when you're doing your policy making, one of the things I'd encourage is that you think about what it means to, you've got some basic definitions in your materials that you give us. But ultimately, we want something that prevents kids from,
yeah. to be
sort
clear,
of
that's not the
changing their
policy.
gender,
Yeah.
kind of back and forth, or, using this in some manipulative way, right? So something that really clarifies that ultimately it's they're making a commitment to a gender to some degree.
Yeah, that is not, I didn't,
Yeah.
those just references, that's not.
Nor do I think
Yeah,
this
haven't
issue will be
even-
solved in this
You
room
don't
in
think
the
so?
afternoon.
I thought we had it all done.
Is there already, has Iowa Association of School Boards created a policy yet for transgender
Yeah,
students?
Yes.
I haven't seen
Yes.
that, but.
they will play on this, if they identify as a female, they will play as a female. If they identify as a male, they'll play as male, but that brings up your point. It's not just, this month, it's something that we really have to work with families and parents on and make sure that this is their choice, their life.
Well, you asked about the School Board Association for board policy, right?
Right. Have they provided any guidance in terms of the school's role and what's necessary in terms of locker room or private facility? Has the Iowa Association, I don't know.
There's guidance from ISB, there's also guidance from, I know, Allers Law Firm that's out there. The Girls Union and the Boys Association do have more flexibility to this. So, and I'm not going to quote anything off the top of my head because I haven't done that work. But check with the Girls Union and the association as it relates to that, because they can be, it's my understanding, a little more restrictive as it relates to who gets to participate in what events. But I'm not going to go into the specifics because I would perhaps get it wrong.
And so just to clarify back with your question too on who gets precedent, is it a matter of we're providing options for everybody and not saying that one has to use the other, but hey, here are your options. So there's the regular big locker room, but then we also have these private restroom facilities that you can choose to use is that right?
This was a 45 to hour-long conversation that started off with a simple question to Nicole Presh, who's the DE attorney, and Thomas Mays, who's another DE attorney. And so I simply asked that question, who gets precedence? And it really comes down to the transgender student, you're correct, receives the preference. And so, but then as a district, you have to accommodate that other student who expresses discomfort for being in the same, whether it's a restroom or a locker room. But it's the kind of that the non-transgender student doesn't have a right to come in and say, well, the transgender student has to leave because I'm uncomfortable. Typically, I think around the state, what's happened that I've seen and heard is that the transgender students typically want to have some other location to go to. But there are those situations where they want to be in the girls' locker room or the boys' restroom, whatever the case may be, whatever gender they're identifying with. But they have the right to be in that facility that they identify with. And if someone's uncomfortable with that, then they have to be accommodated into a family restroom or a different locker room and so on and so forth.
And it's the same scenario with an overnight school trip with a transgender student, that they would be assigned a room as normal, but if others that were assigned to that same room then had a conflict, we'd give them we're not kicking out is that the same type of situation?
Now I'm going to say consult your attorney.
Well, there are guidelines about it too,
There are,
that
but
does
that's
say
where I'm not.
if
Okay.
they're,
Yeah, consult your attorney.
Yeah.
I do like your effort when he asked you the question. It was a good question. To try to take it away from talking about it in terms of preference, right? You said neither nor, I think is the way you tried to. I mean, I think the way to frame it is we're following anti-discrimination law, right? That we're making sure that someone gets equal treatment. We're not saying that we're giving preference to one or the other. We're saying that we're going to follow federal anti-discrimination law, and and then we're going to, like you said, accommodate someone who's uncomfortable with the implications of that choice, as opposed to saying the transgender student wins. It's not really,
Which is a little bit how it sounds when you first read
Yes.
the law.
Yes.
When you first read it, it's like, as I'm reading it, I'm going, okay. And then I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, we've got thousands of other students.
Where'd you find the athletic code stuff at?
IH, the Iowa.
I sent you a couple things last fall on this too.
It's actually, I think, in that.
Trying to think, the follow-up from the United States Department of Ed, what are they called? Had a good one, missing the name right now.
Are there rules on when?
No, it was what do they call it? Follow-up or point of communication or,
Letter to
Yes.
Dear colleague.
yes,
Dear
dear
colleague
colleague.
letter.
Thank you. Had some good guidance in there, and a lot of references as well. I think I attached that to you.
I mean, again, we've been trying to not talk about politics, but don't be surprised if there's a pretty big switch in this in the next few years. The administrative guidance we've gotten under the current administration may be really different than the administrative guidance we get under, there have been lots of Department of Ed and other department kind of rulings that transgender fits in the category of discrimination based on gender. Some of those things are subject to reversal. Not all of them. I mean, there's a lot of it that's pretty clear in federal law. But I think, it's safe to say that with the changes to the Department of Ed, in fact, whether it exists, for example, could change how we think about this issue and many others when it comes to civil rights in schools. So nothing's going to change next week, but I do think that it's fair to say that this isn't something that's like sort of over in terms of its evolution.
As well as records, we didn't even take this the direction of records.
Yeah.
But now, how about, the transcript for the prior years, now that they're Missy instead of Mike? We've got guidance now, but purple things could change.
All right.
Good stuff.
Very good, yeah.
There's a lot of homework on this one. You guys pass it out. We're going to do our test. Get your tests out, guys. We're doing tests and evaluations here. Start with your homework on this one.